Hello, welcome to the Horti-Culturalists. I am Matthew Lucas.
And I'm Stephen Ryan.
And we post every Friday, so do hit subscribe so you too can follow our horticultural ramblings.
What a good idea. And don't forget, on Mondays we do a short, so if you've got a question that you'd like to ask, a burning horticultural question, put it in the comments below. Tell me where you are so I have context, and I will try and answer your question on a Monday in under 60 seconds.
I shan't, I shall just ask the question.
That sounds
now,
fair.
Stephen, once again, where are we?
Well, we're at Roraima Nursery in Lara. We're closer to Geelong, but we're between Melbourne and Geelong. It's one of the iconic nurseries in our state.
It really is sensational. Now, we're off to meet Lyle, who is how do we describe him? The owner, the founder, the planter. This was just a bare site, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a paddock, basically, when Lyle bought it. It did have a bit of a nursery on it, so he bought, the beginnings of one and then took it to a whole new level. Yes.
And any plants that we mentioned are always going to be in the list below. If you can't see it, hit read more and it will all be revealed.
Yes. And funnily enough, we were down here and we bumped into the president and the secretary of the Royal Horticultural Society of Victoria, completely unexpectedly. They reminded me that they're an organisation that people should engage with. So if you're in Victoria or in fact anywhere in Australia, if you'd like to get their newsletters, get involved in their events, if you're in a garden club and you want to make use of their insurance, a very useful thing indeed, the Royal Horticultural Society of Victoria might be an organisation you need to look up.
Who's the president?
The president is Don Rickaby.
Oh, I thought it was you.
No, I am the patron.
Oh,
Goodness me. Get it right, Matthew.
oh
Yeah.
dear. Anyway, enough about you, Stephen, and
Yes.
your patronages.
Yes.
We should go and meet Lyle and talk about, well, we're not going to reveal what we're going to talk about, but we'll go and talk about it.
Yes, what a good idea.
Off we go.
Hello, everybody, and hello, Lyle.
Hello, Lyle. Thank you for welcoming us once again into your fantastic nursery. There is so much that, I don't know, I'm almost hyperventilating with excitement.
Yes.
You're as calm as a cucumber. But
On the outside, Lee. Yes. And today we have a specific purpose for being here in the nursery. And Lyle, you're going to show us a specific group of plants, are you not?
That's right, yeah. So there's a group in the succulent family, but
Yeah.
a particular group called Caudiciforms or
Yes.
Caudex-forming plants.
Oh, here we go. We're going
be
into...
still, my
Yeah.
beating heart.
Yes.
I love a Caudex.
Yes, well, we're heading down that weird horticultural tunnel into a very specialist group of plants that aren't necessarily going to be everybody's taste in plants either.
And I must say, maybe it was a lockdown thing, but I really got into Caudex plants in lockdown, maybe because it's relatively easy to ship them.
Yes, they're postable, so
Postable.
you can do a bit of research online and get something amazing in the post, definitely.
There you go. Well, without further ado, we should go and look at your Caudex.
Yes,
Okay,
what a
thank
good
you.
idea.
No worries.
Okay, Lyle, for the absolute beginner, what is a Caudex?
Okay, yes, so as you can see here, there's something pretty impressive in front of us.
Oh.
So a Caudex is a type of succulent. It could be like this, a climber or a shrub or a tree or perennial.
Yeah.
But what it does is it stores extra nutrient water in a place where it can use it later on if it gets stressed.
Yeah.
So in the case here of these Dioscoreas, it's a vine. It stores it in a bulb at the base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be what's called a stem succulent, where it's got roots, but then the trunk swells up like a bottle tree.
I was going to say, you're talking about a baobabs
or bottle trees.
Or bottle trees. They would be classed as Caudex.
Yes.
Would they?
Yeah. And we talked about in the previous episodes about Carsonias. Well, they're a root succulent because their storage is in their roots.
Uh-huh.
So there's different versions of storing nutrients and water, but normally it would be something that is a bit excessive. That's storing more than it really needs for a long dry period.
And that's because I guess they come from sort of extreme-ish climates, so I presume long periods of dry.
Yep. Harsh environments where at times there may be no water.
Yeah.
And they have to survive on themselves
Yeah.
until it gets back into a rainy season or a winter season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not limited to one group of plants either, are they? Caudexes have come up in completely unrelated plants.
Yes.
Well, I'm here. I promise I'm here. See, look, there I am. So we've actually got a couple of examples here in a sense, because this Caudex, believe it or not, is in the cucumber family.
Cucumber family.
Yeah.
And this looks like a rounded cheese.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
A
Yes,
brie.
a very nice large brie. Yes, but I wouldn't eat it.
So what's this one?
So this is either a Caudostris or an Ibervillea. So it has this vine that comes out the top from a very narrow point.
Yeah.
And then this big pancake type cortex.
Yeah, because the actual base of the stems are quite congested in a little cluster at the base, but then you've got this amazing biomass of growth that's come up through it, and so that will all disappear at a certain time of the year.
It's in some instances, yes, not so much in that one there, but there are varieties that die right off, and
Yep.
some are evergreen.
Ah, right. Oh, well, I think that's amazing. And you can see the difference here. You've got this quite flat, smooth cortex on this one. You've got this amazing sort of pimply, woody cortex on the Dioscorea.
Yep.
So, and when you think about baobabs and others, it's a hugely diverse group of plants that fit into this.
Yep. So I think most continents would have cortex-type plants. Because they're such a variable thing, because it could be in the tropics where a plant's sitting on a tree trunk and it has only getting rain from the showers, it's not in the ground.
Right.
So you can technically class orchids as succulents because they've got succulent bulbs and things.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting group of plants.
Interesting. And just an observation, I'm noticing, and we'll show everyone, that all the pots are quite V-shaped and shallow. So in terms of home cultivation, is that sort of a prerequisite for cortex?
Not particularly, it's more aesthetic.
Yeah.
So
We
and
love an aesthetic eye.
So it's about the shape of the cortex is mimicked by the shape of the pot.
Yeah, so you're putting things in balance.
Yeah, so because it's not just about the plant, it's about how you present it.
Yeah.
You might have a fabulous plant and an ugly pot. That's not going to go well together, but
No.
you're trying to show this thing off, so you want a fabulous pot that matches the plant.
All right, let's just talk about these two specifically. So what is it again?
Dioscorea.
Dioscorea. Where's this from?
So Dioscoreas are from southern Africa,
Yes.
and they're growing in open, shrubby sort of desert.
Yeah.
And normally they would be hidden by all the growth from years previous. So it's an annual vine that grows in the winter, dies in the summer. So you normally wouldn't see it because it's just got a big tangled mass over the top, which is probably protecting it too from the sun.
Right.
But the masses of these could reach up to probably 1.5 or more meters across at the
I
base.
did happen to see one of yours, Lyle, that was
Yep.
enormous. And here we are in Melbourne, and it seems to love our climate.
Yeah, so where our climate is very the same as southern Africa, so we have winter rainfall, summer drier, so it's perfect for us.
Yeah.
If you're in the opposite in the tropics where you've got summer rainfall and winter dry, you'd probably have to do a bit more preparation for growing it and making sure it doesn't get too wet while it's dormant.
And what about cold hardiness? Because that's always for me an issue, coming from an area where I get quite, comparatively heavy frosts. I mean, I'm not northern Canada or, England or somewhere like that, but it gets quite cold at Macedon.
Most of the things like that I would say, are more, not so much deserty, but would not be, if they're cold hardy, the swollen part of the plant might be hidden under the ground, protected under the ground. But where we raise it up to look at the swollen part, then it might get affected by the cold.
So in the wild, this swollen part probably won't be visible.
In this instance, it is.
Yeah.
But in maybe this could have been under the ground.
Ah, right. Yeah.
So you see a vine come out of the ground, but when you dig down, that's under the ground.
Right.
So it depends on where it's formed.
Right.
And then just for aesthetics, you can lift that, and it doesn't affect the health and well-being of the plant if you expose the cortex.
That's right. So some other plants, there's another one called Fockea edulis. It starts off as under the ground, then each year you can lift it up a bit. And it swells up and lifts it up a bit, and it swells up. And then you end up seeing roots and buttresses and texture. And you do it as a section of repotting.
And is there a cortex hotspot generally in drier places or not?
Generally, there are in more desert regions, just naturally. But the cortexes can be in the tropics, as we talked about, like ant plants growing and things like that.
Yes. Well, I think we should go and look at more.
Well, now that we've started, that seems like the appropriate thing to do.
worries.
Let's carry
All
on.
right.
All right.
All right, Lyle. A cortex, obviously, but this is in a completely different group of plants than what we've engaged with thus far. So it's obviously a ficus, but where does it come from? And tell me a bit about it if you know something about it.
Yeah, so this is like an unusual fig, or Ficus palmeri, from Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
And you can make bonsai-looking figs, but this is the natural bonsai making one because it stores water to get through the dry times, because it might germinate on a rock.
All right, so it gets down into a little crevice.
But then there's a dry season, so it's got to survive until it can get roots down to the ground in the
Now,
future.
if in fact this did become a proper tree, would it still have a swollen sort of baobab-y type trunk, or would it turn into a normal sort of tree type tree?
I have seen bigger versions of it, and it normally does just turn into a normal tree. You wouldn't know that it was a a caudiciform in its young.
Yeah, so this could be one of those things that has a transitional period into something else. But if you keep it in a pot,
And in a juvenile stage,
yeah, so you can keep it as a caudexy plant. How old would this one be?
that's probably about 25 years old.
Even in the smallest
It
garden.
is, yeah. But you could technically have something that size in about 5 years from a seedling
All right.
if you grew it well.
Yeah, so you can push things along a bit if you
Yes.
need.
Yes.
This one's been given a hard life and kept small.
Yes, it has been in that pot for a long time, very neglected. But that's the beauty about caudex plants. Sometimes the more you neglect them, the better they are.
Yeah, well, that suits a lot of home gardeners, really. So that's fabulous. So a ficus and from Mexico, and yet another interesting caudex.
Yes.
So let's go and have a look at some more.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, Lyle, what is this turnip?
Okay. So this is a plant called Fockea edulis. It's from southern Africa or Africa as well.
Yeah.
So it's another caudiciform climber. So we actually have a vine that's at the top here that does climb. But it's one that would start off, and when you first grow it, it starts off in the ground. So there's a seedling here. You can see it's just a vine coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
Then successively after that, you can then raise the root system out to show off the base. So if you get this one here and we just tip the soil out, you can see on the base there we've already got
Can I show them?
the start of a caudex there.
It's found a friend. And there you can see the caudex in there. So in the wild then, would this always be below soil level?
So it depends on the circumstance of where it grows. So mostly it might be mostly under the ground.
Yeah.
But if it was in a very shallow spot with a rock underneath it, as it swells up, it might jack itself out of the ground, then it would be more exposed. So certainly they can be like that or hidden away entirely.
Yeah. And I think we've already said that it ultimately doesn't hurt the plant if you do expose the caudex, whereas with other plants, if you don't plant it deep enough,
That's right.
it doesn't love it.
Yeah, so most things, you just have to be careful that when you do raise things out of the ground, they're not used to the sunlight.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful you don't get sun scorch initially.
Right.
And only smally little increments all the time, so you allow the root system to regenerate underneath.
And our basic care for this one, full sun, part shade.
It's actually probably grows in both.
Yeah.
Pretty forgiving and just probably protected
Love that.
from strong frost.
Right. And also could be grown as a houseplant then.
Can be grown indoors, but generally indoors it likes a more full sun position. If it's in shade, it doesn't like it too much.
Yeah. Okay. And does this flower?
It's a member of the Asclepiad family, so it does have these little greeny flowers, but they're not very showy.
Right, right. It's all about the caudex.
Talk about the caudex, yes.
All right, what about edulis though? That means something.
Okay, the voice from off camera, Mr. Ryan Edulis. What's the question?
Well, so in the species of the Fockea edulis, that pertains to that the base is edible.
Oh,
Not
right.
that you would.
Not
I was
that
going to say, you've taken all that time and trouble to form that. You're not just going to.
No, and it wouldn't be like an apple where you just take a bite. I'm
No.
sure there probably is a process to make it edible. but
That's
it is
quite
edible.
woody. Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
A tricky thing to consume. But thank you, Mr. Ryan. Now, we were just walking down to somewhere else, and before us is a veritable jungle of caudex. I called them yuccas, but they're not. What are these amazing things?
So this is Nolina, which is like in the ponytail family. This is Nolina stricta. It's an unusual form of it. So it has a thinner leaf.
Yeah.
But the caudex down the base, which is the lump at the base, has a really hexagonal sort of cracking arrangement, which is part of the feature of it.
Stunning and quite sharp leaves.
Yes, yeah.
A bit bitey.
Yeah, a little bit spiked, a bit sawtoothed on the edge.
Yes,
Yeah.
you could easily give yourself a serious paper cut with that.
Definitely.
Now, I love the spent leaf bases. So do you have to trim these? Yes.
Yeah, so some things you can just pull off the leaf and it falls off cleanly. Some things don't. This is one of the ones that don't, so you need to cut them. But that becomes part of the plant.
It does.
And eventually it does, with great age, disappear.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So-
a fantastic looking thing.
Where is this from?
So they'll be from the Americas, like Mexico and things like that, Central America, yeah.
And so similar to the others, dry summers, wet winters?
Yes, well, could be. Might be dry winters, wet summers. It doesn't matter, as long as it's got a dry season.
Something.
Yeah.
A dry
Yeah.
season
Because it's an
somewhere.
evergreen plant, so
Right.
it's not going to go into a dormancy.
Right, right, right.
But these ones can be not just used in pots; they can be put in the landscape as well. Grown into the ground out in the garden.
And hardiness wise?
So if you've got the correct climate for them, they're really tough.
Yeah. But can it take the cold? No.
Small frost, yeah, -2, -3.
Yeah.
but not excessive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's not-
And these are all in large pots, Lyle. Where are they going? Do
hopefully
they have a glorious new home?
they'll find a home somewhere. Probably one of our clients will use them as a feature plant into a landscape.
And how old would this one be?
These ones were seedlings probably about 20 to 25 years ago.
From you? Did you grow them?
I got them as seedlings,
Yeah.
like a little sprig of grass.
Yeah.
I've had them for that long.
Oh my goodness.
Technically, they probably should be a lot bigger, but they've been containerised, so they haven't reached their full potential.
They're fantastic. Well, we shall
And
continue
I'm
our
sure
journey.
I can get one of these for about, I don't know, $15.50.
We have
about 1960.
we have covered the cost of things. It takes time, and if something is rare and you've been growing this for 20 years, expect to
Yep.
pay for it, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, if I was your plumber and charging by the hour, it'd be a lot more expensive.
This is his constant riposte. Anyway,
Yes, all right, let's go.
we
and
were on
look at
our
some
way
more.
somewhere else.
Yes, let's go and do it.
Once again, stopped in our tracks. So we saw the, I can't pronounce it.
Nolina.
No.
No,
What-
the Dioscorea.
Dioscorea.
yes.
I want to call it something else anyway. The Dioscorea,
Elephant's foot.
elephant's foot is easier.
Yep.
At the front. But look at these two. How old are these?
So these are 50 years plus, so from an old collection.
Yeah.
So they're on separate sexes. So this one's actually a male and the other one's a female. But they've
Oh, we haven't talked about the boys, the girls, and the
No,
birds and the
well,
bees.
But the
Dioscorea
foliage,
does it
they're
as
all very variable, so you
Yeah.
really can't tell by foliage or shape.
Yeah.
It's only when they flower.
Right. So these are here to have fun, to produce seed for you.
These are our mother plants. So
Yeah.
the one behind you, if you turn around to the left, has actually got seed pods.
Yes, you can see the pods.
Pods there.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
winged seeds come out of that later in the season. But these are winter growing, so they're growing in our cold months.
Yep.
And all this vine dies and it gets cut away in the summer.
Yeah.
Back to the plain base by itself.
And how is it to germinate? Relatively easy?
So normally, the seed normally takes a year's, keeping a year before it germinates. So you don't germinate it very, straight away. But it is pretty reliable, yes.
I could answer that myself because I actually grown them from seeds.
Yeah, there you go.
And they were actually relatively easy. I think
Yeah.
I had like 100% success rate
So
actually.
if it's fresh seed and
Yeah.
it's been aged a little bit, then you can get that, yes.
Mine are 4 years old and just beginning to crinkle.
Yes, so you.
I'm very happy, but now I've really got Cordex envy. Oh my goodness.
Yes, well, you won't live long enough to do this.
No.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Thank you, Stephen. Ryan.
That's all right.
Are we going on to see yet
Yes, no, and we may even see a slightly bigger version of this.
Should they come in bigger?
more? Let's go.
All right, fantastic.
Now, Lyle, we're in your polytunnel of cacti, which is just driving me crazy with excitement. But Cordex cacti?
Yeah, so often we just think of cacti, they're succulents.
Yes.
But some of them actually develop a root system that is a cordex. So this was a plant called Pterocactus tuberosus.
Yes.
It's an unusual one. So that's the top there. It has
Yeah.
quite unusual little browny coloured sort of flowers.
And
But as you-
I have one.
it's a
with
baby,
a baby one with a cordex. form.
cordex.
Yeah.
So if you actually look underneath there, you can see the swollen root there that is the cordex, which is storing water and
Wow.
nutrients.
How bizarre.
And so, in terms of cultivation, would you, like others, you'd lift it and expose the cordex?
That's
and-
right. Just incrementally, each time you pot it, just lift it up a little bit. And then as it swells up, you can lift it up a bit more.
Yeah.
Then it's normally a convoluted, so it can be multi-lobed. And it just becomes
Wow.
bigger and more impressive.
And the growth habit on this looks like it's trailing, so this would make actually quite a nice sort of
A weeping cactus.
Yeah, a cascading form in a pot or basket or
Put into a bonsai, traditional bonsai pot, and have it like a little mini bonsai
Oh
cactus.
my goodness me. Oh, my tiny mind is
Now, being a cactus,
exploding.
of course, it's got to be from the Americas somewhere,
Yes.
because that's where they all come from. Do we know whether this one's Mexican or further south or Chilean
Or
Or
yeah,
Texan.
total.
could be Texan? Yes,
But
it could be.
there is other cactus though outside of America.
Yeah.
There's all your Ripsalis are cacti, and
that's
they're
true,
in
yes.
Madagascar and
Yeah.
Africa. But they're probably been brought over from birds though,
Yeah.
from the Americas.
Really?
Yeah, because that's where the Cactaceae family is generally found.
Started off.
Yeah, in the Americas.
So the theory is birds carried the seeds over
Yeah,
there?
because the Ripsalis being epiphytic would have been
Yeah.
not native to there. They would have been brought in
How
somehow
interesting.
in the past.
Lyle, oh my goodness. Viewers, I just have to say I am in... You're used to all this, but we're backstage at Lyle's nursery. And Lyle, I'm so excited. Thank you for showing me anyway. Right, what are we looking at now?
All right. What are we looking at? Well, actually, I'd like to engage with this big one first.
Yeah.
I've seen these growing in central Namibia. I stayed in a resort there where there was two of these outside my bungalow that were about 2 meters each way with a trunk on them that you couldn't wrap your arms around.
Wow.
Amazing looking things.
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me about this particular plant, and I'll get you to tell the name in a minute because I keep forgetting it, but they're in the grapevine family, which is just, it's a bit mind altering to try and see how this could be a grape relative.
Yes. So what is it, Lyle? $1 million
It's called
question.
Cyphostemma and Cyphostemma juttae, and there is different types of Cyphostemmas as well, different species. But they are things that have these beautiful big succulent trunks.
Yeah.
And these are dormant at the moment. So it's winter here in Australia in the southern parts. So with our winter dormant plants, we've got the Cyphostemmas. So they've got no leaves. And then we've got things like Pachypodiums, which are dormant at the moment.
Let me hold that one up. Oh, that is a vicious, vicious looking thing.
Pachypodiums have that tendency. And again, they're another group of plants from the African area, but they seem to hit their epicenter in Madagascar. There seems to be more species in Madagascar than anywhere else. And they have flowers like a frangipani.
Beautiful. And this one?
So that's a baby of the Cyphostemma. So that's what they look like when they're young.
Right.
But if you saw that in leaf, it would have leaves this big on top.
Really?
So big glaucous-y, succulent-y leaves. And then the flowers are reminiscent of grape flowers.
I was going to
so
say,
tiny.
if it's a grape family, does it have grape-like fruits?
So once the seeds are set, it does have these little red drupes, which look like grapes, but they're a bit pointy, not
How
rounded.
amazing. So
Does
we've
it
got...
make a good Shiraz?
I don't know. There's never enough of them to know.
So we've got winter dormants, and now...
We've got the opposite, which is winter growing.
Yeah. And what's this one?
So this is Tylecodon from southern Africa as well.
Yeah.
So the Tylecodons come from a winter rainfall and summer dry. So they leaf up during the winter, do their thing, flower in spring, and then drop their leaves in the summer when there's no water. So then you just get the succulent trunk with little round ends with no leaves.
So what group do these belong to? Do we know?
Well, so Tylecodons, I think they're pretty specific sort of plants. They're not in a...
So they're not closely related to other things we know well.
No, it's very unusual, different, and quite interesting orange flowers on them as well.
And so just in terms of caudex, I guess a lot of people just imagine the caudex being, as we've seen with other things, the round base. But in fact, any fleshy storage unit for water is a caudex.
So most people are familiar with the ball shape or the more flask-shaped bottles, but it could be branched, it could be flattened, it could be irregular.
They're all caudex.
All caudex, as long as it stores the water and nutrients.
Talking of which,
Yes,
cunningly...
Yep. So this is the elephant tree from Madagascar,
Yep.
Operculicarya. So it has small foliage, and then it can swell up a bit like the Australian bottle trees or the baobabs into a
Leaves
swollen
almost sort of like a wattle or a...
Yeah, very unusual, very handsome foliage. A very attractive sort of plant. Yeah. Hi, this is more of different types of Pachypodiums which you talked about earlier. So we have smallish ones, some of the smaller growing ones, like this Pachypodium brevicaule, which just grows as a flattened caudex. Or you've got things like Pachypodium saundersii that's more shrubby, or even these ones which are quite unusual. These are the Pachypodium namaquanum, and they can go several meters tall. So you've got a whole range of different types, different stems, different foliage, but that's a big wide genus and very unusual and collectible.
How big will that one grow, Lyle?
So it will actually grow more flatter and wider. So you've got individual crowns on the top, but then it flattens out and could be up to 30 to 40 centimetres across, more like a pancake with individual heads within that. Where these ones you can see are more branched and shrub-like.
And can I see flower buds on this one?
Yeah, so this one's got flower buds coming up here. This one's about to open, has a creamy flower. They're members of the oleander family, so it's quite pretty flowers, cream, yellows, reds. So, plenty of colour, but also very unusual form.
And winter dormant, summer growing.
Some are. So these ones you see are winter dormant, where the namaquanum is winter growing and summer dormant. So depending on whether they are growing, their growth phase will reflect that.
So you're watering one pot, not the other?
Yes, trying to. Sometimes you do the accidental swish over and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that, but that's the fun of growing these things.
Well, we've been looking at all sorts of different Caudex plants, but something that some people, well, most people probably don't know, also has Caudex forms, is the much more commonly grown genus of Pelargonium, and these ones are just truly remarkable.
Absolutely. So tell us everything, Lyle. Yeah, where are they from? How do you look after them? Are they winter dormant, winter growers? What's the story?
Yeah, so these are pelargoniums, are mostly from southern Africa.
Yeah.
You know, there's nice prevalence of them there. This one's Pelargonium cotyledonis. It has a beautiful branch work. It has beautiful white little pelargonium flowers.
Yeah.
But it
And
looks
the
like
foliage is quite
But the
beautiful.
foliage, this sort of
like a little
bronzy.
tree, little reniform sort of shape there. This one here is a Pelargonium paniculatum. It almost looks like carrot tops,
Yeah.
but very succulent stems. So it's growing with leaves at the moment, but in summer, no leaves at all, just these big sausage-like stems. So
So I take it though it would flower in foliage, or does it do the opposite?
So it leaves up,
Yeah.
flowers, seeds, and then goes dormant.
Right. Well, I think that's a remarkable plant, and I have to say, I wouldn't have picked it for a Pelargonium.
And this one?
So it's another variety of paniculatum, but
Yeah.
it has a bit more of a grayer foliage, and there's lots of different forms in them.
Yeah, they look slightly different, don't they?
Now, back to our Latin class, paniculatum.
Yeah, it means a panicle type flower. So it has flowers in a panicle.
What's a panicle, Stephen?
It's sort of like a lilac.
Okay.
If
Pyramidal.
yeah, sort of pyramidal cluster of flowers. So
Right.
paniculatum.
Right.
So there you go. So that explains the botanical name for
Thank you. Lyle, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you very much.
Yes, well, I think you should swell with pride.
Oh, dad jokes, dad jokes. No, no, no. Now, if you want to come and explore Lyle's collection of Caudex plants, you'll have to come down to his nursery. You don't have an online site, do you, really, for sales?
We have an online site, but yeah, we're just mainly from the nursery. We're open 7 days.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have things on display to look at with our display gardens, and there's always something interesting to see there.
Oh, I can attest to that, there is. So we'll put the links below, and if you're in Victoria or Australia, you should head on down to this nursery because it is absolutely amazing.
Not all Caudexes.
Not all Caudexes, no, amazing things. How could we top this, Stephen Ryan?
Well, we could come back and do another story with Lyle.
Let's!
Yes, what a good idea.
But if you want to know what we're doing next week, you'll have to hit subscribe. We post every Friday, and do follow our continuing adventures.
And don't forget that I do a short every Monday. So if you've got a question that is burning away at you, put it in the comments below. Tell me where you come from so that I can get some context, and I will try and answer your question in 60 seconds.
30 seconds?
In 30
Wow,
seconds, yeah,
that's
I'm
a
going
new
to cut
challenge.
back. Yeah. No, 60 seconds.
Thank you, Lyle. Thank you for today.
Welcome, no
Yes,
worries.
it's been fantastic fun, Lyle, and we will be back.
We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye all.
Right.